Welcome to the Professional Edge. My name's Todd, tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner, host here on the Professional Edge, and thanks for tuning in. What we're going to talk about on this session is basically wealth alignment. What does that actually mean? Well, we see individuals come into the office and they have this just cats and dogs of things all around, and they've been trying to get things coordinated. They have an old estate plan that looks like the cardboard paper. It's just this thick placement paper. They have not done anything to that estate plan in probably 20 years. They have multiple 401ks. They've changed some jobs. They've never looked at things over there. They've just left it, and they really don't know what's going on. They stopped opening the envelopes. And you know who I'm talking about. This could be you as a listener here on the Professional Edge. So, we have things not aligned. They may be working with the CPA. The CPA has not talked to their estate planning attorney, and the estate planning attorney has not talked to their stockbroker or their 1-800 financial firm if you're a do-it-yourself individual. So, how do we get this aligned? And this is a critical component of working with an individual that has three disciplines, and that is being a tax attorney, also being a CPA, and then also being a certified financial planner to put the portfolio with the estate planning with the tax planning. That's how our clients at estate management counselors benefit. We put these three disciplines together and we have wealth alignment. It is a process. Yes, it is a great process for the client because they benefit by having all of this in alignment. So let's start off with the estate plan and how that is out of alignment majority of the time of individuals that sit down with us and take a look at wealth alignment. So they go into their estate planning attorney or, the attorney that closed their house said, hey, you know what? Do you have your estate plan in place? We have an estate planning division here at the real estate closing office, and we'll help you out. And they do a simple I love you will. Basically, it says husband gives everything to wife, and if wife doesn't survive, everything to the kids, and the wife's documents are a mirror image. So if that's the case, did that attorney actually align your wealth? Well, the only way to do that is to say, you know what, there are certain things that are not controlled by the terms and conditions of that estate planning document, and that would be titling on accounts. Well, for the very first one, if husband and wife or husband owns a piece of property with son and it's joint tenant with right of survivorship, and his last will and testament says he's going to give everything to his surviving spouse, guess what? That land is not going to be controlled by the terms and conditions of that estate planning document. The legal title precedes, it has precedent over whatever that estate planning document says. So that's wealth alignment. We have to go through and look at the titles of your assets to make sure that they are aligned with your estate plan. And I will tell you, a majority of attorneys don't do that step. They draft the estate planning document, the last will and testament, have you sign it, and then they are done. They do not coordinate and make sure that your estate plan is effective, aligned with all your financial assets. So the next one, we have the legal titles on real estate. If they don't ask you to bring in a copy of the deed to all your real estate, then that right there is a indication that your wealth is not aligned. Your estate plan is not aligned. So next one would be your life insurance. Did they go through and review your life insurance beneficiary designations? Because we have a primary beneficiary and then we have a contingent beneficiary. And aligning that wealth, well, we got to include three little words to make sure that you don't disinherit your grandchildren in certain cases. When, let's say, your spouse and one child is in the car with you and they have children, so it's your grandchildren. If you don't have these three simple words on that beneficiary designation, then guess what? That son or daughter who was in that accident with you, their share is not going to go to your grandchildren of that child. So that's the wealth alignment process. So it's a financial instrument, yes, life insurance, but we got to make sure it's coordinated and aligned with your overall wealth plan. So, three simple words. You either have it or you don't. So, pull your life insurance beneficiary designations. And I would almost guess 95% of our listeners here on the Professional Edge, primary beneficiary is going to be spouse, and then contingent beneficiaries are going to be the kids, and it's going to be in equal shares, and that's all it says. Well, guess what? You are going to disinherit your grandchildren if something happens to spouse and child in that common accident. So that might be a wake-up call to give our office a call at 404-250-9798. That number again, 404-250-9798, to get your wealth aligned. Next one, we look at financial accounts. So the stockbroker has not talked to the estate planning attorney or the real estate closing attorney that helped you out with your estate planning documents. They've never talked, and the stockbroker has not talked to the CPA or, Jenny's bookkeeping service or, your TurboTax software that you do your tax planning with or your tax preparation with. So with that in mind, we need to make sure that your estate planning document actually coordinates with your financial accounts. And the key one is your beneficiary designation on qualified accounts. Could be your 401k at work. Got to take a look and see who the primary and contingent beneficiaries are on that, because you know what? Your last will and testament can say, I leave everything to my spouse. But on that 401k account, you could actually say, I'm leaving 70% to my spouse and then 30% to my kids. That would supersede whatever is in that estate planning document. So again, it is the wealth alignment process that we do at estate management counselors to catch things like this, to make sure that plan of distribution that you have in your estate planning document is aligned with your financial instruments that you hold. So beneficiary designations supersede whatever you have in your estate planning documents. And a lot of times we see where lawyers, even LegalZoom online that you've done there, that is not a wealth alignment, because you have to know that your beneficiary designation would supersede whatever is in your estate planning documents. So think of it this way: doing LegalZoom, get your documents online, it's cheap. Next time you have a cavity, just go down to Home Depot or Lowe's and get you a Dremel drill. It's a high-speed drill. It's the same kind of drill that the dentist uses, and just drill your cavity out and fill it yourself. That's what you're doing with this. I don't recommend it. Get proper counsel and advice, because it does affect your overall planning. So back to that wealth alignment with your estate planning, beneficiary designation supersede whatever you have. And then again, on your IRA or your 401k, you have a beneficiary designation. Most of the time you will say, okay, primary beneficiary should be to my surviving spouse if you want to stay married. And then the contingent beneficiary is going to be the kids. Well, you know what? On the kids, think about this. Husband passes away, wife inherits, rolls over the self-directed IRA. We're all living longer. We have longevity, and it is a longevity risk. And wife meets Romeo. Well, Romeo comes in and he says, you know what, let's go down to the 1-800 firm or even to his stockbroker. And the stockbroker says, oh, great. Love to have you as a new client. Romeo, you did very well. I like meeting your new spouse. And let's just update your account, move that over here. And on the beneficiary designation, we're going to have the surviving spouse and then the kids as contingent beneficiaries. Well, your bride passes away, and the kids of that first marriage go to the stockbroker and say, well, they go to the estate planning attorney because he's going to read the will, and he says, yep, everything goes to Romeo except for X, Y, and Z. And that X, Y, and Z is nothing to do with the IRA account. So we got to pull the beneficiary designation on the IRA account of wife. So wife beneficiary designation is primary Romeo. So the husband who actually earned all these assets for the family, for the benefit of the family, now has disinherited his very own kids. Think about that. You disinherited your kids because A, you named your spouse as being the primary beneficiary. She then went with Romeo, got remarried, and Romeo's stockbroker just put primary beneficiary is the spouse. Well, wife dies, Romeo inherits. Romeo has zero legal obligation to pay or provide any of this to the children of that first marriage. So think about that. How aligned is your wealth? So majority of people, listeners here on the Professional Edge, their largest financial asset is a qualified account, a 401k or an IRA. And 90% of the listeners or more actually have their spouse as a primary beneficiary. Well, that is a recipe for the potential to disinherit your children just through that previous scenario. So if you don't want the chance of Romeo getting that money, make sure you give our office a call at 404-250-9798. That number again, 404-250-9798. And aligning your wealth, what we would do is have a designated beneficiary trust as the primary beneficiary on your IRA. It would go to the surviving spouse, but you know what? The surviving spouse can't ever change or update that beneficiary designation to Romeo. That prevents the stockbroker, who has no idea what they're actually doing on the estate planning side, because remember, they're not licensed attorneys to give you legal advice. And that is actually legal advice on contingent beneficiaries and protection of assets. So make sure you have a designated beneficiary trust as the primary beneficiary of your qualified account. That way you guarantee you will not disinherit your account, and Romeo is not going to get your hard-earned dollars that you saved for 30 years in your qualified account. My name's Todd, tax attorney, CPA, certified financial planner, host here on the Professional Edge. I appreciate you listening in. More to come on wealth alignment.
We've all thought about it. Everyone listening will need one. Not having one can cause untold heartache, family conflict escalating to the point of a lawsuit. One simple thing that avoids all that: an effective estate plan. As a practicing tax attorney, Todd with Estate Management Counselors has completed over 1,000 estate plans during his 15 years of professional practice. He can help you implement an effective estate plan, coordinate your financial accounts, and make sure you have named the proper beneficiaries to maximize your tax savings. Call 877-654-9798 today and let tax attorney Todd help you implement an effective estate plan. Call 877-654-9798 today. As a tax attorney, CPA, for over 15 years, Todd has implemented over 1,000 individual estate plans. He has recently authored an especially helpful guide, How to Unlock the Ultimate Estate Plan. This guide has helped many individuals to understand the benefits of an estate plan and how to avoid unintended disasters. has made every attempt to write this in plain English. To receive this valuable guide, How to Unlock the Ultimate Estate Plan, call 1-877-654-9798 and request your complimentary copy today, or by emailing your request to info@emcadvisors.net.